Good evening, and welcome to Creative Broadcasting, the station of unlimited possibilities, presents Creating Your Seat at the Table with your host, Ashley Little, as she welcomes her guest to the table.
Welcome to Creating Your Seat at the Table. I am your host, Ashley Little. A little bit about myself: corporate professional by day, entrepreneur by night, 3-time best-selling author, CEO and founder of Ashley Little Enterprises, LLC, owner and creator of Creative Broadcasting, and co-founder and owner of Talk Radio and TV Network, LLP. Tonight we have an amazing special guest by the name of Lakia Brandenburg. A little bit about Lakia. Wife to Derek and coach to wives, Lakia Brandenburg is a wife coach. She is a powerful, inspirational speaker and MC, and a 2-time relationship author who is committed to helping women who are married or planning to be married to know the difference between being a married woman and being a dynamic wife. LB empowers women to get rid of the fairy tale syndrome and create a more realistic vision for their marriage and role as a wife by tapping into the power of the P, your position, and knowing when to tame your tongue. Her clients are taught how to live the happy wife life and create their own picture-perfect marriage. Also, as a certified prepare, enrich instructor, LB coaches couples in preparing for marriage and enriching their relationship through the PE assessment and her customized VIP day sessions. Welcome to the table, the amazing Lakia Brandenburg.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much, Ashley. I am so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for saying yes. I'm honored and humbled to be able to interview the wife coach. So I'm so excited for the knowledge and the wisdom you're about to share with my listeners tonight.
Absolutely. I'm ready for them. I'm ready.
So you have an amazing bio, LB. So talk to us more about your entrepreneur journey.
Absolutely. So let me first say, me getting started as an entrepreneur, the wife coach, didn't just become something that I desired to do. I wasn't like saying I was going to be an entrepreneur or I was going to start my own business. Actually, I was a classroom teacher. I was a classroom teacher for 5 years. I taught middle school language arts, and I was honestly content with working 30 years, as we normally do, and retiring and living my life. Like, I thought I was going to retire as a principal, but I actually wrote a book, which is called Picture Perfect. He's not perfect. I'm not perfect, but together we're picture perfect. And I wanted to share the story of how Derek and I got together, how Derek and I created our own version of what we consider to be a picture perfect marriage that's based on a whole lot of imperfections. And what I did by writing that book was actually created a platform for me to reach more women who shared similar stories. I mean, because we went together. Let me go ahead and say that. Let me go ahead and let you know. We were going together for almost 10 years, off and on for almost 10 years before we got married. And so I needed women to understand that there was nothing perfect about myself. There was nothing perfect about Derek, but we were two imperfect people who are perfect for each other. And so my book is to give women hope that they can create their own version. I don't care what marriage looked like as you were growing up. It didn't matter if you had failed relationships, but I wanted to give them hope. And that actually started the entrepreneurial journey without me even realizing it because, again, I was a classroom teacher at the time. So it was the beginning of what I am now as far as the wife coach, but it definitely started with me sharing my story about my relationship with Derek, who then became my husband.
Amazing. And so I know you just said a lot of different nuggets in it, just talking about your entrepreneur journey, because a lot of people, especially when you're not married and you're trying to get there, you look at it like you have to be perfect, right? And you stated, you wanted people to know that it's two imperfect people growing together. So could you talk more about that? Because I think people desire marriage and they think that, it has to be perfect when they go into it, and they have to be perfect. So can you talk more about that?
Absolutely. And the thing about it, most of us have either an example of what marriage is supposed to be or we have no example. And so my example of marriage came from my divorced parents. My parents, their marriage was everything but picture perfect. It was argumentative. It was just negative. It was just a lot of negative energy that I remember growing up and witnessing. I want to get married. I definitely don't want this. So their marriage taught me what I didn't want to see in a marriage. However, when Derek and I started dating, I realized that a lot of those same traits that my father had, some of those things that my mother had, I was actually bringing into our relationship. And it got to the point where he and I had been dating, like I said, off and on for 10 years. And, you get to a point where you're like, okay, we got to do something. We got to take this to the next level. You got to make me an honest woman. And I wanted to just get married. Like, I just wanted to get married. I saw my friends getting married. They were starting their families. I just wanted to get married. Remember, I had no real positive example of what a healthy, successful marriage looked like. I just waned to get married. But all married women aren't wives. And so I was more focused on becoming, just getting married than becoming a wife. I was more focused on becoming a bride for one day than becoming a wife for the rest of my life. My husband, and I like to say, I like to tell the story that, he jilted me at the altar. And they're like, what, girl? No, he didn't. I'm like, yeah, he jilted me at the altar because we were supposed to get married before we got married. And he didn't want to enter our marriage without us really understanding what marriage was. So my husband had a lot more sense than I did because I was more focused on that day. He was more focused on our life. You see what I'm saying? As husband and wife.
Yes.
So I think what it is we had to understand, first of all, what marriage was. We had to get educated and trained on our roles as husband and wife before we could come together. We had to look at our imperfections because a lot of those imperfections are still here today. And Derek and I have been married almost 10 years, okay? So some of those same imperfections are here today. However, how do we handle those imperfections? How do we address those imperfections and still create something that is for us? So that's what it's all about. It's really understanding how you can embrace the things that you don't necessarily like about your spouse, because it's easy to love them when they're lovable. But when they are not lovable and those things that we don't like about them start to surface, what are we going to do? Throw the towel in? Start throwing around the D word? No. What are you going to do to understand, how to address those things? And that's what it was really all about. Me not having the tools, me not being prepared to be the wife that I need to be for my husband.
I just want to commend you for creating that space because you're here to help save marriages. Because a lot of people, when something happens or, now, as you can see with the stats, people just walk away from their marriage now, right? The divorce rate is so high. So why do you think that? Why do you think that's the case? Why do you think people just give up so quickly now?
Well, because love is supposed to be easy, Ashley, girl. Love is supposed to be easy. Let me tell you something. I got to go to work every day. I got to raise these children. I don't want to have to work for marriage. Like, I don't want to have to work for love. That's just a given. And so I think people don't understand what they're getting themselves into, and that's why they're able to walk away. I often tell my women before they get married, because I do coach women who are engaged, and I tell them, jumping into marriage unprepared is as wise as jumping into a pool and not knowing how to swim. We prepare for everything we want to do in life. When I say if you want to be a doctor, you're going to school. When you want to, get that next position in your job, you're training, you're preparing for it. Why do you think you're not supposed to prepare for something such as the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with? Why, we don't understand how to communicate effectively. We don't understand how to handle conflict in a resolution point of view, where we're trying to solve these problems and not create more. So I think a lot of people walk away because they don't understand the investment that it takes, or the commitment, and how commitment means, doing the thing and staying loyal to the thing you said you were going to do long after the feeling you said it in has left you. People get to the altar. I watch 4 weddings all the time. I don't know about you, Ashley. I love 4 weddings. That's my show.
Yes.
But people get to the altar, and I watch them, and they're so in love, and so they're reading their vows and that commitment they're making. I'm like, okay, do y'all really know what y'all saying? Because I know y'all love him right now. I know you like her right now. But what about when she starts getting on your nerves? What about when everything goes out the window? Yeah. How do you stay committed without walking away? And so I often teach my wives and my wives to be like the D word, get rid of it. Stop throwing that out like you want to do that unless you really want to do it. Don't use that to, try to, because you're fueled with anger, or you don't know how to communicate what it is that's going on, so you get upset and you start throwing around the D word, or you're just ready to throw the towel in. Like you said, you can't have a long-lasting, successful marriage without some type of struggle. And that struggle for everybody is going to look different. Marriage happens in seasons. And so every season, if you come up on a season where it's not harvest time, but it's sowing time, and you don't like the season you're in, you're going to walk away. So you're going to miss the harvest. So that's what I think the issue is. They're not realizing that preparation is needed, no matter what it is, especially when it comes to marriage.
Amazing. So I hope listeners are listening to this, because especially for people who are desiring to get married, we got to position ourselves and prepare for that next step.
Yes.
So, Lakia, you help women get rid of the fairy tale syndrome and create a more realistic vision for their marriage and role as a wife. So what are some different strategies you use with your clients?
Okay, so the fairy tale. You know it.
Yeah.
You had it too, Ashley. I know you did. We all do. Like, the first thing I do, because that's actually, I have an online masterclass, an exclusive online masterclass called Teach Me How to Be a Wife. And it is the only masterclass that's changing married women into happy, successful wives. And so during week 1, it's all about getting rid of the fairy tale syndrome. And that means, what did you think marriage was supposed to look like? What did you think marriage is supposed to feel like? Because what happens is we have this preconceived notion of what we think the fairy tale looks like. Like, I used to watch, I love black romantic comedies. Like, or it doesn't have to be black. Like, I love romantic comedies, period. And it's something about that love story. It's something about just the idea of being swept off your feet and the man just looking you in your eyes and you're melting and all of this stuff. And then when you get married and that don't happen, you like, wait a minute, hold up. I've been bamboozled. Like, what's going on? Right. This ain't how the story unfolds. What you talking about? So we look at that mindset, because it's that mindset. And I've come across so many wives who are stuck in a fairy tale syndrome. They really think marriage is supposed to be one way, and then when it plays out to be a different way, they feel like, okay, well, I got to get a divorce. I didn't marry the right person. What's going on? And so we first look at that mindset. That's the first tip, is to understand, why do I think the way I think? Who was my first example of marriage? Because sometimes we often feel that just because our parents, who have been married 40 years, 30 years, 20 years, whatever, and they have a quote-unquote successful marriage, that our marriage is going to be successful too. Just because they had the blueprint doesn't mean it's going to fit your life. Doesn't mean you're going to be able to follow their blueprint in order to create your marriage. And so that's where it all begins. It begins with the mindset. Let's figure out why you think the way you think about marriage, and then now let's focus on creating a new perspective, a new way of seeing marriage, so that you can love the one you're with. You know what I'm saying? And that's who you think you're supposed to be with, or what he's supposed to be doing.
Right. And that's needed, because as you stated, we all have our own version of how it looks, and we have to dig in there and get our minds together, because it all starts with that mindset. You are right.
Yes.
And I think that's everybody has had their view of how it's supposed to look. So what are some questions you think couples should ask each other before getting married? Because, it's some things that people don't want to talk about, which sometimes create another whole battle when you walk down that aisle, like finances, for example.
Yes. Well, let me tell you one thing. A lot of people feel that the number one reason couples are getting divorced has something to do with either infidelity or finances. And although those reasons have been tied to divorce, the core or the foundation is the lack of effective communication. And so when you understand, I think having that communication, or that conversation about your communication style is important, because a lot of times women and men are talking at each other and not talking with each other or talking to each other. So I think understanding how to communicate, because if I know how to talk to you where I'm being understanding, and I'm also making sure that I'm being understood, not just one way, because, most of the time when we converse, I just need you to understand what I'm saying. You just need to understand what my view, and I don't need to understand yours. So let's go ahead and understand how to do that first, so that when it comes to talking to finances, or comes about talking about sex, or talking about children, those conversations can be effective. Those conversations can be where we have solutions. This is our game plan. This is our goal, and this is how we're going to achieve that goal. Finances, of course, is definitely a hot topic. I think it's so important that couples discuss, how are we going to manage finances? Who's the spender? Who's the saver? What are our money goals? Like, I think you should have goals in every every area of your marriage, whether it's sex. You need to set a goal for that. Like, how much sex do we need to have in order to be satisfied? Like, are we going to be creative when it comes to sex? Or are we going, just really having that conversation and stop making it taboo. Create a safe space in your marriage where you and your husband can have these intimate conversations. These are topics that couples have to tackle before, because they're going to continue to tackle those conversations throughout. Derek and I actually have a session on Sundays called Pillow Talk. And Pillow Talk was designed to create a safe space for us to have those not so comfortable conversations, but also the comfortable ones. And the reason we do it in the bed, like we actually have these conversations in our bed. I pull out my laptop, I take notes, because we understand the importance of communication. If 60% of marriages are ending due to the lack of effective communication, then you and our buddy gonna have to talk. We're gonna have to figure this thing out. So we created a safe space where we can come together frequently. Every Sunday is our day where we come together and discuss finances. We discuss, hey, let me check in with you to see how you're doing. What's been going on with you? How's everything going at the job? How's everything going? So all of these different conversations we have, but that foundation started with us understanding each other's communication styles and how to talk to each other and not at each other. So hopefully that gives you an idea of just some of the areas that these couples need to really talk about before they actually get married.
Awesome. And do you think that marriages should definitely keep counseling involved in their marriage too? Is that helpful?
Absolutely. Let me tell you why. Because you have to maintain what you value. Like if you buy a brand new car, I'm pretty sure you're not going to just drive it till the wheels fall off without taking it to the shop, getting the oil change, getting it checked up periodically to make sure that it's running effectively. So the same thing with your marriage, and that's where the work comes. That's why when people want to walk away or throw the towel in, they're not willing to do the work. I tell my wives, do your work. Being a wife is an assignment. We got to stop looking at it as I'm just married. You know what I'm saying? I'm just a wife. I got the wife title by default. No, boo. No, baby. You got power. There is power in the P, and I'm talking about your position. You know what I'm saying? So you got to understand how to tackle that position and how to use that power for good. So I think it's important that you don't wait until something happens, or you don't wait until a problem, arises in your marriage. Now you run into counseling. People run to me when they're on the brink of divorce. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on, boo. My question to you is, how did you get here? So don't wait until the engine light has been on for 6 months, and then your car starts smoking, and you're like, oh, no, what's wrong? Something wrong. But the warning signs have been there all along. So I think it's so important that couples understand the beginning. Before you get married, I strongly encourage premarital education and training, and throughout the course of your marriage, continue to maintain it with just regularly seeing a therapist or a counselor, just to make sure you keep that thing maintained.
And the key thing is expert advice, right? Going to somebody that can really help you, because a lot of people go to different people and they get opinions, and some of that sometimes destroys your marriage too.
There you go.
Talk about that going to the wrong person.
Yes, you got to make sure that the person you go to, I love that, a trusted individual, one who you would trade places with, meaning if I see a successful, healthy couple, and I know that they've been married, however long they've been married, but they've been through some things, and I've seen them come through things and how they're loving on each other, and that's what I want. I want to be able to have that same, withstandingness. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can withstand anything that we come against. But if I go to my girlfriend who's single and she's miserable, girl, you don't need him. That means she want me to trade places with her, or to basically become friends with her and be miserable and single. So I'm going to go to that person who I know who is just as invested in my marriage as I am. One thing I started to realize when we invite people to our weddings, the whole goal is for them to witness it. So if you're inviting people to your wedding who do not invest in you, or who do not invest in your, like, you can't go to them and say, look, we're having problems. What do you think we should do in order to resolve it? And they can't give you sound advice. Then why are you inviting them to your wedding? That's a whole nother topic. It goes back to the dog and pony show. That's the dog and pony show. We want people there so you can see my dress. You can see this experience. You can see the venue. You can eat my food. No, boo, this is marriage. So when they go away, they close, you close the door and you got to deal with that man under your household. Who's there to support you? So definitely make sure that that's somebody, that trusted individual, that expert, that therapist, or it might be a couple at church, or a couple, in your neighborhood that you just admire, that can really help you to invest and give you that wisdom to keep going through, especially through those seasons where y'all are challenged.
Yes, because we're gonna need them. You're gonna need the prayer warriors and the support.
Yes,
you're gonna need it.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So you talk about the power of the P and about taming the tongue, because everybody can have some moments, right, with the tongue.
Yeah.
So what are some different strategies? Wives should use to communicate with their husband to control that tongue? When they get in these heated conversations, and sometimes you might make some mistakes.
Let me tell you something.
How can they be better with that?
Listen, Ashley, I posted something, I believe it was yesterday, on my Instagram at The Wife Coach, and it said, stop being mean to him, period. Stop being mean to him, period. And when I tell you those responses from those wives, and they were like, you know what, I'm guilty. I'm guilty of talking to him crazy. I'm guilty of giving him that mama stare. You look at your child, and you like, right. You pick that thing up one more time after I told that look. Guilty of rolling their eyes, because that's, even though that's not verbal communication, it's still body language. It's still communication. Being snappy, short answers. And so that was one of the best things that I could have ever done, was learn how to tame my tongue. That was one of the best things, because that's one of the reasons why Derek didn't want to marry me. He wanted to be with me, but he didn't want to marry Mrs. Sarcastic. He didn't want to marry Mrs. Controlling, Mrs. Don't know how to control your words, just speaking out of frustration or whatever. And so one of the first things that I always do when it comes to teaching my wives how to tame their tongue is figuring out where that came from. See, I make you own your ish, and that ish is issues. I make you own your ish. You can't tell me that he made you mad, because nobody can make you feel inferior, or nobody can make you, feel frustrated or whatever without your consent. So he can't control you. Only you can control you. So if you feel the need to pop off or to give your husband a piece of your mind, where's that stemming from? See, I like to go all the way back to the core. Who did you see do this? Was it your mama? Was it your daddy? Was it your auntie, your uncle? Who did you see going off on men like the way you're basically doing in your own relationship? Because when we get to the bottom of it, now we can address it. When we get to the core of the issue, now we can figure out, okay, this is how we build from here. And the first thing is understanding that you got to think before you speak. Just because you think it doesn't mean it needs to be verbalized. That's the thing. I was taught to speak my mind, Ashley. I was taught to speak my mind. Now, should you be able to speak your mind? Absolutely. Yeah. But you got to make sure that you're speaking the right thing from your mind, because just because you thought it doesn't mean it's right.
Right.
That's maturity. Right. That's being able to mature, have a mature conversation. So if I know that I'm feeling angry, or that what I'm about to say is not the most pleasant thing, guess what? Let me first think about it. And not the silent treatment. That's not to be mistaken with the silent treatment. I'm talking about, let me first pause and figure out why I feel the way I feel. See, I'm owning my ish. Let me figure out why I'm really frustrated. So that process means that I can't just go off. Like, I can't just open my mouth and speak without processing why I feel the way I feel. So it's a psychology behind it when understanding how to tame your tongue. And most women look at it as, all right, LB, all you telling me to do is be quiet. I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying. Because you think just because you went off, you're powerful. And I'm telling you, you are power. You don't have as much power when you go off versus when you think about what you need to say and communicate it in an effective way. That's the power. You actually lose your power when you go off on your husband, because you don't have any control.
That's good.
You see that? You don't even have any control of yourself.
And in the silent treatment, you're so right about that, because most people think that's the best way to do it. Why do you think the silent treatment is not healthy?
The silent treatment. No, this is funny, because I'm guilty. And everything I teach my wives and my wives to be, I pretty much have been through. That's why I'm telling you, I'm full of imperfections, but I've learned how to use my imperfections for good. And so with the silent, I'm just saying, but the silent treatment is a prescription for more problems. So what I've learned is shutting down is basically me being immature. And that's another thing, Ashley. Marriage will mature you or it will expose the immaturity in you. And when I tell you I used to give the silent treatment like it was nothing, that lets you know that LB had to grow up. I had to grow up when it came to communicating my feelings because I didn't know how to articulate what I was feeling. I was just pissed. I'm mad. So because I'm mad, then I'm going to punish you by shutting down. I ain't going to say anything to you. And my husband, the total opposite. He like, come on, let's deal with it and keep it moving. No, I'm going to be quiet because I know you want to talk to me. Now I'm petty. You see what I'm saying? Now I'm being petty. Right. So it basically causes more problems when you can simply figure out what's going on with you first, communicate your needs, communicate your issues. Y'all work on a solution. Focus on the solution, not the problem. Focus on the solution. Don't attack him. He don't attack you. Let's attack the problem. Focus on the solution, and now we can move on. I had to learn that, Ashley, and I had to learn that by practicing it. Because when I was ready to shut down, I had to say, stop. What's wrong with you? What's going on, LB? Why do you feel that way? Let's deal with it. And when I was able to take that accountability for myself and assess, that's when I started realizing, okay, I'm growing up. I'm becoming an adult now. I'm starting to be mature in my marriage. You see what I'm saying? So, yes, I know a lot of us do that, and some of us do it out of spite, but it's only going to create more problems.
Because I know you can attest for this for as a marriage standpoint, but I'm sure that silent treatment is a whole lot different when you marry than when you when you not, because you don't walk down the aisle and make that commitment. When you just dating, it's different. You still can walk away, correct? Right. But see, most of us, hopefully, those who are dating with purpose or dating on purpose. So if the goal is to get married and you're doing the silent treatment now, guess what? You're going to do it when you get married. And marriage magnifies problems. Like, those problems don't disappear. Marriage magnifies those problems. So if you're doing it right now, just know you're going to keep doing it, and it's going to explode. So listeners, if you're doing the silent treatment, get rid of it now. If you have not walked down that aisle, you want to go ahead and prepare and start working on that now. Those are awesome nuggets. So what are some strategies you would give to listeners who are seriously dating or engaged?
And they are seeking marriage?
Yes, and they're seeking marriage. They're on their way.
Well, one thing I would say to my ladies who are, I guess, single and are dating and are seriously dating, is to prepare for what you're praying for. And in order to prepare, you have to, one, get clear on what you want. I often tell my singles to create a list, like write a list of what you desire in your husband, like not just the superficial, characteristics. Oh, I want him to be 6'2". I want him to have 6 figures. I want him to be muscle built, all that stuff. That's fine. If you desire that, write it down. But let's really get to the core of what you need. Like, that's one thing I forgot to do. Really, I wanted a man that could protect me, that could protect my heart, that could speak life into me. But see, I had to grow up to know that. I didn't know that initially. I was a superficial girl. So go ahead and create a list of all of the things that you desire in a husband. Right? That's the first thing. Then I want you to become the list. Because in order for you to attract, even if you're dating a guy you feel that you want to marry and some of those qualities aren't in him, you need to start becoming the change you want to see now. So if you want him to be patient, you need to be more patient. If you want him to be considerate, you need to be more considerate. So everything that you desire of him, start working on it in yourself. And that way the law of attraction will work in your favor, and start bringing those things into your existence. So I think that's the first thing. Another thing is to make sure that you date exclusively for at least 4 seasons. Now, this is 2019, and I know that the dating scene is totally different than when Derek and I was dating Derek back in 1997. So I know my good friend Coriel always say, LB, you ain't date since the 90s. Like she'll just throw it out there like, you don't know nothing. And so I know things have changed, but I can tell you one thing that remains the same. I don't care when you started dating, and that's to understand who you are getting involved with. And so when I say date for at least 4 seasons, that's because as seasons change, people change. You need to see that man when he's upset. You need to see him when he's happy. You need to see him when he got money. You need to see him when he broke. You need to see all of these different things, like the sowing and harvest seasons. You need to see him at his best, see him at his worst, because that's what you're going to eventually marry. That's eventually marry. That's who you're going to become one with. So you want to give yourself, and I say by 2 or 3 years of dating somebody, you should know whether or not y'all should get married. Yes, I told you that Derek and I dated off and on for almost 10 years. I'm not telling you to do that. But let me tell you why I thank God that we didn't get married when I thought we were supposed to, because we were two immature people. I met Derek when I was 19. He was 20. So we spent our 20s pretty much growing up together. I was becoming a woman in front of his eyes. He was becoming a man in front of mine. So we were not ready to get married when I thought we were. It took us growing up. So thank God it worked in our favor. But I'm not telling you, all right, LB dated off and on for 10 years. Let me try that. No. I'm telling you, by 2 or 3 years, you all should know. Because I wasn't dating on purpose. I was just dating like I had a boyfriend. That's what you do. You get a boyfriend, right? But when you're dating on purpose, 2 to 3 years, you should know whether or not this is the one or if you need to go run.
But what about, because we all have seen people who have got married in less than 2 years. Do you think if you get married in less than 2 years, are you still dealing with the representatives at that point? You haven't really solved?
And it's scary to put. I guess I just don't want to put a time frame on it, but I feel like when you spend quality time and you really get to know, it's the whole purpose of getting to know someone. That's what the dating and the courting stages of the relationship is about.
Right.
I think it's important that you understand that you study that person. Like, you got to really don't get so caught up in the infatuation and the lust and all that stuff. Like, don't get caught up in that, because that can be the smoky mirror. And that's all you think, and that's why you think it's a fairy tale. And when you get married, you're like, wait a minute, hold up. What happened to all that? My butterflies aren't here anymore. I'm not smiling when he calls. I'm looking at the phone like, You know what I mean? So you got to really study, become a student of that person, especially when you're married. I always tell my wives, don't stop studying your husband. Like, don't get lazy to the point where you're just Mr. and Mrs. Married. No, y'all need to be constantly working at knowing who you are. You're evolving together. You're not the same person you were today as you were 5 years ago. So how can I meet him where he is now as he's continuing to grow as an individual? How are we growing as a couple? So I think the 2-year mark, I think honestly, I know somebody who's gotten married after a year and they're still married. I think it's like 5 years now. But it just depends on really seeing them in different seasons. Like, you have to, and love is a risk. If I must say that, and I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but you can give your heart to somebody and they can break your heart. Like, you can think you know this person and you get married and they turn out to be a totally different person. So there's always that gamble there. But at the end of the day, I think the signs will let you know. If you really stay in tune, if you put God first, really, ask God for his wisdom and discernment, that you'll know whether or not this is a decision you need to make.
That's some good stuff, because I always hear people say, I lost myself. Why do you think people lose themselves when they get married?
That's good. That is so good. They lose themselves because they feel like they just have one identity, which is either the wife or the mom. And that's normally what happens. They start putting everybody before themselves. Their husband. Oh, it's my husband first. My husband. It's my children first. Oh, my children. I'm putting my ministry. Oh, the ministry. Everything comes before you. And so, of course, you're going to get lost in the shuffle because you don't know who you are. You're giving yourself to everybody else. And so I always use the analogy of the glass that's half empty, half full, right? Doesn't matter how you look at it. But a lot of women are serving their families, they're serving their husbands from a glass that's half empty or half full because they don't know who they are. So I encourage women to not just fill their cup up, but to fill it to the overflow. Like, put a saucer at the bottom of that glass and fill your cup to the overflow, which means you're taking care of yourself first. Like, you're doing what you like to do first. And I know that may sound selfish, but guess what? Selfish is going to be your sanity. Being selfish, meaning taking care of yourself, is going to be your sanity, because when mommy's okay, everybody else is okay. And that's one of the things that I teach. I have a VIP day, which is one of the bonus incentives or perks of the masterclass. And this is where I teach women how to live the happy wife life, how to create the happy wife life. And one of the things I stress is taking care of you first, doing what makes you happy. Something as simple as me getting up at the crack of dawn, 4:30 in the morning, going for a run. I go for a morning run almost every day. Some days, hey, I'm namaste right in the bed. But on those days where I know I'm going to hit that pavement, I am in my happy place. I am filling up my cup. Because when I fill up my cup, now I can serve my husband. Now I can serve my girls. Now I can serve my friends and my community, my business. So that's what that is all about, really understanding that you got to put yourself first. Stop not putting yourself first. Like, what is it that you love to do? What makes you happy outside of your husband? That's what happens. What makes you happy outside of your kids? And start doing those things. And you know what? They're going to be okay. Like, if they need to pivot, they're going to pivot. They're going to adjust so that you can continue to be not just full but overflowing, and they can benefit from the overflow. If not, you're going to be tired. You're going to be resentful, of certain people or things. Your life is going to pass you by, and you're going to be mad at everybody. But you need to be mad at yourself because you didn't put yourself first.
Right. That's so good, because a lot of people get caught into that, because I hear conversations all the time about losing themselves. But I'm so glad you spoke on that, because it's so important to have your own life, correct? To continue to have your own life as well.
Yes, absolutely. That's what makes me happy. And because I'm happy, my husband wants to complement that happiness. My husband sees me glowing and, just sees that smile on my face. And he realized, like, dang, she's happy without me. And it's a beautiful thing. It's an attractive thing, because now he's like, oh, I want to make her even happier, because I know that I am not depending on him to fill my cup. Now, my husband will fill it. He will add some to it, but I'm not putting my sole responsibility on him of making me feel full or making me feel happy. That's not his job. That's mine.
Listeners, please take notes. She's giving some awesome nuggets. These are some awesome nuggets, LB. So what are some strategies you would give to wives who are struggling with creating that deeper, more intimate relationship with their husband?
Well, I think you have to first, imagine what is it that you desire. Like, what does that deeper love and intimacy look like for you and your husband? So start there. Like, commit to paper. This is what I imagine us really being like. I want us to hug more. I want us to, embrace each other more. I want us to, maybe speak more throughout the day, maybe through text message or on the phone. I want us to speak more, sweet words, affirm each other more. So what does that intimacy look like? Because notice I didn't say anything about sex.
Right.
Intimacy is more than just sex. That's a physical act. Intimacy is the foreplay. So what does that look like for us? And so then, now that I have a vision, now I have to start executing it. Now I have to create the roadmap of how we're going to make that thing happen. So maybe you need to start in the morning, maybe take a sticky note and write something, not just a generic message like, have a good day. You know what I'm saying? Like, really something
right.
that he could connect with. Like, baby, I really appreciate how you put the dishes up last night. Or, baby, I really appreciate all you're doing for our family. I know we're in a rough spot, but thank you. Or something where it's from the heart. That, to me, and that is sowing seeds of intimacy. Now, does that mean he's going to be like, hey, baby, meet me at the house at 5 o'clock, and I'm going to jump on your bones? It doesn't mean that's going to be the result of it, because especially if y'all in a rough patch or if y'all are in a rough space. But that's starting the seeds. You're planting the seeds to where intimacy can grow. If you don't create a space for intimacy to grow, then it's going to be you over here, him over here, and you're constantly moving apart from each other. The goal is to draw in closer. So you got to start putting in action, start putting in those daily tasks that's going to bring you in closer. Maybe you just send a random text that says, how can I make your day better? Like, how can I make when I tell you, do that, ladies, let me tell you something. Do it right now. Do it tomorrow. Do it tomorrow. First thing in the morning, text them and say, how can I make your day better? Now, if you've never asked him that before, he's going to look at that text and think something wrong. He might check his food. He may wonder what's going on, like, what has gotten into this woman? But he probably will say, no, I'm all right, I'm good. Thank you. My husband, when I first asked him that, he looked at me like, what's wrong with you, girl? But that was me sowing seeds. That was me sowing seeds. And so now he's so used to me asking that randomly. I don't ask him every day, like, how can I make your day better? Now, and not every day.
Right.
But when I randomly ask him that, do you know my man started asking me, baby, is there anything I can do to make your day better? What? Okay, power of the P. That's the power of the position. Me using my wife's power to influence my man. So that's how you start growing intimacy, understanding that you have to sow seeds daily. It's a daily work in order to bring that intimacy into your life.
Sowing seeds and asking him, How can I make your day better?
That's
I
right.
love it. So, LB, we know you already bossed the table, but I always ask all of my guests this question. How did you create your seat at the table?
Oh, my goodness. How did I create my seat at the table? I think what I had to find out or realize within myself was the value that I was bringing. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't come sit at your table and I don't have anything to offer. It's like going to somebody's house for Thanksgiving. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was invited to come, but I'm going to bring a dish or I'm going to bring something that's of value so that we can, you know, we can feast together. So I started realizing my value that I am helping women who are married, one day planning to be, to really be fulfilled in their marriages, to understand that the happy wife life has nothing to do with their husband but everything to do with them, to help them to understand that marriage is about two imperfect people who are perfect for each other. I help women to step into their power. Because when I say I'm a happy wife, doesn't mean I'm a perfect wife. But there's one thing you can't see. When I'm smiling, y'all, most of the time, like 90% of the time, that's a genuine smile. Sometimes you got to push through stuff. Stuff happens. You know, life happens. But I understand who I am in my marriage. And because I understand who I am in my marriage, my husband recognizes that, my children recognize that, and I feel that I am living a level of success that is admirable, that's inspirational, that I can show other women how to live their level of success when it comes to their marriages. So that's what I'm bringing to the table, knowing my values.
Love it. I love it. And I must say, I follow you consistently, right? And so you're always reaching back and pulling forward, and you're always so transparent and genuine. So I love that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. So we know you already knocked quarter one and quarter two out. What can we expect from you the rest of 2019?
Oh, my goodness. So I'm so excited because my online masterclass, Teach Me How to Be a Wife, I'm actually enrolling for my third quarter right now.
Awesome.
Yes, this is a 6-week online masterclass where I am showing you rid of the fairy tale syndrome, teaching you how to talk to your man, to even how to respect him and be intimate with him. And so if you're interested in joining that, of course, you go to my website and learn more about how you can be a part of that intimate group. It's a very small group, and that's intentional because I, as a coach, like to know who my wife is, what they're dealing with, what's going on in their marriages, and I do that in a safe space, a very small but safe space. And so I'm super excited about that. I also have something that I'm working on next year that I can't release the information as of yet. However, if you join my email list, you will be able to be one of the first to learn what I have cooking up for all of my wives and my wives-to-be for next year. And as well, when you join the email list, you're going to be able to get a free webinar called 7 Most Common Mistakes Wives Make. So if you are wondering, you know, when LB said, stop being mean to him, right, on my Instagram, when I posted that, that was one of the ways that people, you know, one of the mistakes that wives make. So I want to show them the 6 other mistakes. So you'll definitely get that free webinar when you sign up for my email list.
So please go support her, enroll in the masterclass, and please make sure you get on the email list because I am so excited to see, LB, what else you're about to do that you could not announce. But I'm telling you, she is powerful and she is amazing with results.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ashley. I really appreciate it. This has been so amazing.
Yes, and it was an amazing interview. You are amazing yourself. I want you to make sure you tell our listeners once again how they can follow you on all social media platforms and support you.
Absolutely. You can definitely find me on Instagram. I'm an Instagram girl at The Wife Coach, but I'm also on Facebook. You can follow me on Facebook. Just find my name, Lakia Brandenburg, or my page, The Wife Coach. And, of course, my website and all my information are in my bio. So definitely link up. Looking forward to connecting with everybody. And if you're looking for, you know, somebody that's going to keep it real when it comes to marriage, just know that I'm probably going to say sometimes it's not him, it's you. And we're going to deal with you and your ish, which is your issue, so that you can ultimately live that happy wife life.
Thank you. So please follow and support her. Thank you so much, LB, for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to come to the table. And I can't wait to invite you back to the table. Thank you.
And I can't wait for the invite. I will definitely be there. Thank you so much, Ashley. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, too. I can't wait to meet you this year. I will meet you. I will be at work, pray, and slay, okay? I know you're going to be there.
Yes, I can't wait. Absolutely. I'll see you soon.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. So I would like to give a special thanks to Tammy Collins Marquis and John Schamberger. And I would also like to give a special thanks to author Kimberly McLemore and my interns from Tennessee State, Sarah and Tyler. And you all may follow me on Facebook at Ashley Little and on Instagram at _Ashley A. Little. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Creating Your Seat at the Table, where Ashley speaks with corporate professionals, celebrities, entrepreneurs, authors, and speakers who are transitioning or have transitioned to entrepreneurship.